Amina had always imagined her life going in a different direction. Ever since she was a child, she dreamed of studying, building a career, and choosing her own path. She pictured herself living in a busy city, surrounded by learning, opportunity, and freedom. She had goals that kept her awake at night, opening her own small business, helping her community, and becoming someone her younger siblings could look up to. She never imagined that at the age when she wanted to focus on her dreams, her life would suddenly take a sharp turn she never asked for. It all began on a warm afternoon when her mother called her into the living room. The sun was shining through the curtains, but Amina felt a strange heaviness in the air. Her parents sat close together, their expressions serious but calm. Her mother reached out and held Amina's hand, and her father cleared his throat in a way that told her something important and possibly unpleasant was about to be said. Her father spoke first, though his tone was gentle. "Amina, we need to discuss something with you." In that moment, Amina felt her heart tighten. She could not explain why, but a quiet worry rose inside her chest. She took a slow breath and guessed that whatever was coming was not good news. Her mother continued softly. "A family we know has shown interest in you. They want you to marry their son." Amina's eyes widened slightly. She knew arranged marriages were common in many families, but she always hoped her parents would give her the choice. She had trusted that they understood her dreams and respected her wish to build her life step by step. The moment hung in the air like a cold shadow. She asked quietly, "Do I know him?" Her father shook his head slowly. "His name is Travis. He comes from a rural town. He works with animals and helps on his family's ranch." Amina blinked, trying to picture the life of someone she had never met. A cowboy? A ranch? Fields and horses? She had lived her whole life in a busy town full of neighbors, shops, and familiar streets. The idea of marrying someone so different and moving away from everything she knew felt unreal. Her mother added, "His family is simple, respectful, and kind. We have known them for years. They believe you would be a good match." Amina could hear the hope in her mother's voice, but also something else: expectation. She knew their family had been struggling financially for a while, and the proposal must have felt like a blessing to her parents. But to Amina, it felt like a wall suddenly rising in front of her future. She asked softly, "Do I have a choice?" The room fell quiet. Her parents exchanged a look that told her everything she didn't want to hear. Her father's voice grew soft but firm. "Amina, this is a good family. We believe this is the right decision. Sometimes life asks us to accept what is best for everyone." Amina felt her throat tighten. She tried to explain, her voice trembling slightly. "But I had plans. I wanted to study more. I'm not ready for marriage. I don't know him. I'm scared." Her mother squeezed her hand. "We understand your dreams, but this opportunity is coming at the right time. Travis is a good man from a good home. You will learn to adjust. You will be safe there." Safe. That word echoed in Amina's mind. But she did not want safety if it came with losing her freedom. She wanted a life she could shape with her own hands, not a life decided for her. Her parents' gentle insistence continued for days. They spoke about responsibility, family honor, a stable future, and how Travis's family respected traditions. Amina listened each time, but inside she felt as if her dreams were slipping away from her fingers. When she sat alone at night, she thought over everything. She wanted to say no, to refuse completely. But she also saw the tired lines on her father's face, the worry in her mother's eyes, and the pressure their family carried. Her heart was torn, one part wanting to fight for her freedom, the other not wanting to disappoint the people she loved. Weeks passed, and the preparations began. Amina felt everything moving too quickly, as if she were being carried by a river she couldn't stop. The engagement was arranged, families met, and plans were made. Through it all, Amina tried to stay calm, but inside she felt lost. She met Travis only once before the wedding. Their families gathered at a small dinner, and he sat quietly across from her. He had broad shoulders from working on the ranch, lightly tanned skin from long hours under the sun, and deep, quiet eyes that revealed little of what he felt. He greeted her with a small nod and a shy smile. But he barely spoke. He seemed polite, calm, and respectful. But his silence made her nervous. She kept stealing glances at him, trying to read something, anything in his expression. But Travis remained quiet, answering questions only when asked, and speaking in short, simple sentences. To Amina, his silence felt like a wall. She feared he would be controlling or distant, or that his quiet nature meant he hid emotions she could not understand. After the dinner, when they returned home, Amina felt the weight of reality settle on her shoulders. This was it. Her life was changing forever. The wedding day arrived faster than she expected. The morning air was cool, and the sky held a soft glow. Amina sat in front of the mirror, wearing the dress her mother chose for her, while her hands trembled slightly. The room was filled with relatives, soft chatter, and the rustling of clothes. Everyone seemed excited, except her. As the ceremony approached, Amina felt numb. She walked slowly, almost in a dream, repeating quiet prayers in her heart. She stood beside Travis, who looked calm but slightly nervous himself. He glanced at her once with a gentle expression, but Amina was too overwhelmed to understand it. Her thoughts were swirling. She felt like a stranger stepping into a new world she did not choose. The vows were spoken, traditional words were exchanged, and everything moved forward like a movie she was watching, instead of living. Before she fully realized it, the ceremony ended. She was now married, a wife, bound to a person she barely knew. As the guests congratulated them, Amina forced polite smiles. Inside, she felt fear, confusion, and a growing sense of uncertainty. She wondered what kind of life waited ahead in that distant ranch. She wondered who Travis really was behind his quiet eyes, and whether she would ever find a place she could call home again. When the celebrations ended and she finally sat alone for a moment, she looked down at her hands and breathed deeply. Her heart whispered the truth she had been afraid to say out loud. This wasn't the life I wanted, but maybe I'll learn to survive it. She did not know then that the life she feared might hold gentle surprises. She did not know that the quiet man she dreaded marrying carried a heart much softer than she imagined. For now, all she knew was that she was stepping into an unknown world, with nothing but hope and prayer to guide her. Amina's new life began the very next morning after her wedding, when she and Travis traveled to his hometown. The car ride felt long and quiet. The city buildings slowly faded behind them, replaced by wide fields, tall trees, and endless open sky. Amina kept looking out of the window, watching the scenery change, feeling as if she were watching her old life disappear behind her. Travis drove calmly, his hands steady on the steering wheel. He didn't speak much, except to ask her once if she was comfortable or if she needed water. His voice was gentle, almost shy. Amina replied softly, but she still didn't know how to talk to him. Everything between them felt unfamiliar. After hours of driving, they reached a dusty road that led toward a large stretch of land. A wooden fence surrounded the open fields, and horses grazed quietly in the distance. Amina had never lived near farms or animals before. The sight was beautiful in its own way, but it also made her feel small and uncertain. Travis slowed the car as they approached a modest, warm-looking house with a small porch and a rocking chair. The paint was slightly faded, but the place felt peaceful. Birds chirped in the nearby trees, a light breeze moved through the grass. "This is home," Travis said quietly as he stepped out. Amina nodded gently, holding her bag close. She followed him to the front door, feeling nervous. She wondered if she would be able to adapt to this life. Everything was so different from what she knew. Inside, the house smelled faintly of wood and freshly baked bread. The living room was simple: a brown sofa, a handmade rug, a few photographs on the wall showing Travis with his family and animals from the ranch. There were no fancy decorations, just warmth and simplicity. Travis's mother stepped out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She was a kind-faced woman with warm eyes and a soft smile. "Welcome, Amina," she said warmly, pulling her into a gentle hug. Amina felt comfort in that simple gesture. At least someone here felt familiar, even if only through kindness. Travis's mother introduced her to the rest of the family, and everyone spoke politely. Amina smiled softly, trying her best to seem calm even though her heart was full of confusion. As the day passed, Amina explored the house. The kitchen was neat, filled with jars of homemade pickles and spices. The dining table was wooden and sturdy. The guest room was small but cozy. And then there was the bedroom she would now share with Travis. She stepped inside slowly, looking at the neatly made bed, the soft curtains, and the window that opened toward the fields. She felt emotionally overwhelmed. This was her new world now. Travis noticed her hesitation and spoke in a soft voice. "If you need space or time to settle in, take all the time you want." Amina looked at him with surprise. She had expected him to be distant or careless, but instead, there was gentle understanding in his eyes. She nodded slightly, appreciating his words. Over the next few days, Amina tried to adjust. She woke early, seeing the sunrise over the open fields. She watched Travis feed the horses, clean the barn, and work with quiet dedication. He moved slowly and calmly, as if the land and animals understood him. He never rushed, never raised his voice, and never acted impatient. Amina found herself observing him often. He didn't force her to help with anything. He didn't expect her to do chores she wasn't familiar with. Instead, he took time to show her things gently, explaining each task with simple patience. But even with his kindness, she still felt like a stranger in the house, in the land, and even next to him. One morning, Travis's mother invited Amina to learn a new recipe in the kitchen. Amina hesitated but agreed. She didn't want to seem unwilling or distant. As they cooked together, the older woman spoke kindly about her own early marriage days, how she too had felt lost at first. How every new life takes time to settle. Her words comforted Amina, easing some of the weight in her chest. Later that afternoon, while walking outside, Amina saw Travis repairing a broken fence. She stood at a distance, unsure whether to approach. Travis noticed her and paused his work. "Everything okay?" he asked softly. "Yes," she replied. "I'm just getting used to everything." He nodded with understanding, brushing the dirt off his hands. "It's a different life here. I know it must be difficult." His honesty surprised her. She had expected him to ignore her feelings or expect quick adjustment. Instead, his voice carried sincerity. Instead of leaving, Amina sat on a nearby wooden bench. Travis continued working but occasionally glanced in her direction with quiet concern. His kindness was gentle, not loud or obvious, but present in small actions, helping her lift something heavy, opening doors for her, giving her the more comfortable seat at the table. Still, Amina felt lonely sometimes. She missed her old home, her siblings, the noise of the city, the familiar shops, her books, her dreams. At night, she would sit near the window and look at the stars, thinking about the life she imagined for herself. One evening, while Amina was arranging some clothes, she accidentally dropped a small box. It scattered its contents across the floor. She bent down hurriedly, trying to pick everything up before anyone saw the mess. Travis stepped into the room and paused. Without saying anything, he crouched beside her to help. His movements were gentle, not rushed. After gathering the items, he placed them back in the box and handed it to her. "You're not alone here," he said softly. Amina felt something warm inside her chest. His words were simple, but they carried a deep calmness. Days turned into weeks, and slowly Amina began to adapt. She started learning about the ranch, how to feed the chickens, how to water the garden, how to understand the animals. Travis would show her things quietly. He never made her feel small for not knowing anything. Instead, he seemed pleased whenever she tried something new. He wasn't talkative, but his silence was peaceful, not cold. It wasn't the silence of someone with hidden anger or harshness. It was the silence of someone who expressed everything through actions, instead of words. Sometimes Amina wished he would talk more, share more, let her understand his thoughts. But then she reminded herself that everyone has their own nature. Travis wasn't unkind, he was simply quiet. One late afternoon, Amina was sitting outside, feeling homesick. She hugged her knees and stared at the fields. She didn't hear Travis approaching, but he sat a few feet away, giving her space while still staying close enough to be comforting. "You miss home?" he said gently. Amina nodded. "Yes, everything is so different here." "I know," he said, looking toward the horizon. "I'm not great at talking. And I know I don't make things easy sometimes." His honesty made her look up at him. He continued, "But I want you to feel safe here. I don't want you to feel pressured. You can take all the time you need. If there's anything you want to do, anything at all, just tell me. I'll do my best." Amina felt a softness in his tone. For the first time, she saw a little vulnerability in him. He wasn't distant because he didn't care. He was distant because he was shy, quiet, and unsure how to express himself. In that moment, something shifted inside her. Maybe Travis wasn't the cold, silent stranger she feared. Maybe he was more gentle than she ever imagined, gentle to a level that made her rethink her assumptions. She still didn't feel fully settled. She still missed her old dreams. But now, instead of fear, she felt a small, growing comfort, a sense that maybe this place, this house, this quiet man, could become something meaningful in time. The days continued, soft and slow. Amina found herself laughing occasionally with Travis's mother, watching sunsets from the porch, and learning more about Travis's quiet world. And without realizing it, she began to look at Travis differently, not with fear or uncertainty, but with a quiet curiosity. She did not know it yet, but this gentle shift was the beginning of something new, a new chapter, a new connection, and a new understanding that would soon change her life. Amina had been living on the ranch for some time now. Things were still new and unfamiliar, but the fear she once felt had softened. She no longer felt completely lost. Instead, she felt something gentler growing inside her: curiosity, comfort, and a quiet sense of safety she hadn't expected. Still, she and Travis remained two people learning how to understand each other. He was kind, but his silence sometimes confused her, and she was gentle, but her hesitation sometimes made him unsure of how close he was allowed to come. Their relationship moved slowly, like the calm wind that crossed the fields each morning. One early afternoon, everything changed a little, not in a dramatic way, but in a way that touched both their hearts. Amina was in the kitchen preparing tea. The sun filtered through the window, painting the counters with warm light. She reached for a glass jar on the top shelf, stretching her arm as far as she could. The jar slipped from her fingers and fell toward her hand. Instinctively, she tried to catch it, but the sharp edge scraped across her palm before it hit the counter and rolled safely away. The pain was sudden, not deep, not dangerous, just a sharp sting. Amina gasped softly and quickly pressed her other hand against the scratch. A thin line of redness appeared on her skin. Travis, who had been passing by the hallway, heard the sound and stepped into the kitchen instantly. "What happened?" he asked, his voice filled with sudden concern. Amina shook her head, embarrassed. "It's nothing. I just dropped the jar. My hand got a little scratch." He came closer, not rushing, but his expression was serious. "Let me see." And Amina hesitated for a moment, then slowly lifted her hand. Travis took it gently, as if it were something fragile. His touch was warm, careful, and respectful. He studied the small cut, his brows slightly furrowed. "It's not deep," he said softly, "but it needs to be cleaned." She tried to pull her hand back, not wanting him to worry, but he shook his head lightly. "It's okay. Sit down. I'll bring the first aid box." Amina sat at the kitchen table while Travis returned with a small kit. He opened it and took out a cotton pad and antiseptic. His movements were calm and steady. He sat on the chair beside her and gently placed her hand on his. "This might sting a little," he said quietly, but it didn't hurt as much as she expected. Perhaps because his touch was so gentle, he cleaned the cut slowly, making sure not to cause any discomfort. Amina watched him silently, surprised by the amount of care in his actions. He blew softly over the cleaned wound, trying to ease the burning sensation. The gesture was so unexpected, so tender, that Amina felt her chest tighten with an emotion she couldn't yet name. "There," he said after placing a small bandage on her palm. "Try not to use this hand too much today." Amina smiled faintly. "Thank you. You didn't have to do all that." He looked up at her, his quiet eyes soft. "I care," he said simply. Those two words stayed in her heart long after he stood up. That small moment opened a door between them, a door that kindness had been knocking on for days, waiting to be noticed. From that day, Amina began to see Travis differently. She saw how thoughtful he was. Not just with her, but with everyone around him. She noticed the way he talked to animals as if they understood him, how he checked on his parents every evening, how he fixed things around the house before anyone even realized something needed repair. She saw that his silence wasn't coldness, it was sincerity. He wasn't the loud, commanding type. He wasn't the type who filled a room with words. Instead, he filled it with presence. Calm, steady, and kind. One late afternoon, Amina decided to walk to the stables. She had been curious about the horses since arriving, but she never found the courage to approach them closely. Today, she felt brave enough to try. As she stepped inside, the earthy smell of hay and warm sunlight greeted her. Horses lifted their heads, their ears twisting curiously. Travis was inside as well, brushing the mane of a brown horse with a soft brush. He looked up when he heard her footsteps. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, smiling lightly. "I wanted to see the horses." He nodded and gestured for her to come closer. "This one's name is Willow. She's gentle." Amina stepped slowly toward Willow. The horse blinked at her with calm, trusting eyes. Travis offered her the brush. "Here, try brushing her. She likes slow strokes." Amina hesitated. What if she moves suddenly? "She won't," he assured her. "I'm right here." His voice was steady. His presence behind her felt like a protective shield. She took the brush and moved it over Willow's mane. The horse flicked her tail but stayed calm. Travis watched quietly, smiling a little as Amina grew more comfortable. "You're good at this," he said. Amina raised an eyebrow. "I've only done it for 5 seconds." He chuckled softly, a sound she didn't hear often. "Still counts." That brief laugh brought warmth into the stable. Amina felt her heart lighten. Later, they walked back to the house together. The sun was setting, painting the sky with orange and pink. The wind was cool, brushing against the tall grass. It was the first time they walked side by side without silence feeling heavy. Instead, it felt peaceful. Amina spoke quietly. "I didn't think I would ever get used to this place." "See, I know," Travis replied. "I didn't expect you to settle in quickly. I just wanted you to feel safe." "See," she looked at him, surprised. "You've been very patient with me." He shrugged lightly. "I don't like making anyone uncomfortable. Especially you." Amina felt her cheeks warm. She wasn't used to such gentle honesty. In the following weeks, conversations between them became more frequent. Small at first, asking about the day, sharing thoughts about meals, talking about weather, but slowly, their words grew deeper. One evening while they sat outside on the porch, Amina asked, "Why don't you talk much?" Travis took a moment before answering. "Growing up, I was shy. I spent more time with animals than with people. Words never came easily to me." She listened quietly. He added, "I was afraid of saying the wrong thing, so I learned to express myself through actions." Amina nodded slowly. "That explains a lot. Does it bother you?" he asked cautiously. "No," she said honestly. "It makes sense now. And your actions speak loudly." He looked at her, his eyes softening. Amina smiled gently. "I do." Their bond deepened without them noticing. Every shared moment, cooking together, walking through the fields, caring for animals, sitting quietly under the evening sky, stitched their lives closer. One night, as they walked after dinner, Amina stumbled slightly on a stone. She didn't fall, but Travis reached out instinctively, gently holding her arm until she regained balance. "Careful," he said softly. His touch was warm and respectful. He let go immediately, but the gesture left a long-lasting comfort in her heart. Amina realized something important. She no longer felt afraid of him. The distance between them wasn't a wall anymore. It was slowly becoming a pathway. She started opening up too. She told him about her dreams, her old city life, her childhood memories. Travis listened with quiet attention, never interrupting, never judging. "Do you still want to study?" he asked one evening. Amina's eyes widened. "Yes, I do. Very much." "Then you should," he said simply. "We can find a way." Her heart trembled. She had never expected him to support her dreams. She thought her old goals were lost forever. But here he was, offering support with sincerity she couldn't ignore. For the first time, Amina saw a future, not one she was forced into, but one she might choose to build with him. Travis's quiet eyes no longer looked distant. They now looked warm, patient, and full of gentle kindness. And Amina's fear no longer held her heart. Instead, something new started blooming: trust, hope, and a soft affection she didn't yet dare to name. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing: she had once dreaded this man. Now, she was beginning to understand him, and understanding him felt like discovering a kind world hidden behind silence. Amina's life on the ranch had changed slowly, like a sunrise that begins with darkness and then spreads light across the sky. Weeks turned into months, and every new day felt a little softer than the last. She no longer woke up feeling like a stranger in the house. The sounds of the morning, the rooster calling, the wind brushing the fields, the distant steps of horses felt familiar now. Most of all, the quiet presence of Travis no longer felt heavy or intimidating. Instead, it felt comforting. She had begun to understand his silent nature, and he had begun to understand her gentle spirit. Their days flowed with a calm rhythm. They didn't rush each other. They didn't force conversations. Their bond grew naturally, like plants growing toward sunlight. Still, something inside both of them remained unspoken, a softer emotion waiting to be expressed. One morning, Amina woke early and stepped outside. The sky was pale pink, and the cool air brushed her cheeks. She wrapped her shawl around her shoulders and walked toward the small garden beside the porch. Dew covered the leaves like tiny pearls. She bent down to touch one of the plants gently when she heard footsteps behind her. Travis stood there, carrying 2 cups of warm tea. He handed one to her with a shy smile. "You're up early," he said. "I couldn't sleep," she replied softly. "I like the morning air here." He nodded. "It's peaceful." They drank their tea quietly, standing side by side. Amina noticed Travis looking at her from the corner of his eye. She pretended not to notice, but felt her heart lighten. After a moment, he spoke again. "There's a small lake nearby. It's really pretty in the mornings. If you want, I can show you." Amina hesitated only a second before nodding. "Yes, I'd like that." They walked slowly through the fields, the grass touching their feet. Birds flew overhead, singing softly. The lake came into view like a piece of glass reflecting the sky. The water was calm, with tiny ripples dancing across the surface. "It's beautiful," Amina said, her eyes shining. Travis smiled slightly. "I used to come here when I needed to think." They sat on a flat rock near the water. Amina dipped her fingers into the lake, feeling its coolness. Travis watched her quietly, as if trying to understand every thought passing through her mind. After a long silence, he finally said, "I know this life wasn't your choice. And I know you had dreams you had to leave behind." Amina looked at him, surprised. His voice carried gentleness, not guilt. He continued, "But I want you to know, you don't have to forget your dreams. You don't have to give them up. I think." Her eyes softened. She whispered, "Sometimes, I feel like I'm living someone else's story. Travis lowered his gaze. I don't want that. I want this life to feel like yours too. Amina took a slow breath. His words were simple, but they touched the deepest part of her heart. I'm trying, she said gently. Every day, I'm trying to learn this life. And honestly, it's not as frightening anymore. Travis looked up, meeting her gaze. His eyes were warm, filled with something she had never seen before, quiet admiration. Amina felt her cheeks warm. She quickly looked away at the water, but the feeling lingered. Days passed, and the air grew cooler as the season changed. One afternoon, Amina was in the kitchen preparing dinner when she heard the front door open. Travis stepped inside, his clothes dusty from working outside. You're back early, Amina said. There's something I want to show you, he replied. She wiped her hands and followed him outside. He walked toward a small wooden shed behind the house. The shed was old, but clean, with sunlight slipping through the gaps. When he opened the door, Amina saw a small wooden desk, a chair, a shelf filled with books, and a lamp. Her eyes widened. What is this? Travis scratched the back of his head, a little shy. You said you wanted to study again. I cleared this space so you can have a place to read, write, or do anything you want. Amina stepped inside slowly, her hand brushing the wooden desk. It wasn't fancy, but it felt full of love and effort. You did this for me? She asked softly. He nodded. I wanted you to have a space that feels like yours. Amina turned toward him, her heart full. Thank you, Travis. This means more than you think. His eyes warmed, and for a moment they stood quietly inside the little study room, the sunlight forming soft shapes on the walls. As the weeks continued, their bond deepened. They spent more time together cooking, caring for animals, talking on the porch, and sitting by the lake on calm evenings. Sometimes they spoke about the past, sometimes about the future, and sometimes they sat together without a single word, letting silence speak on their behalf. Amina found herself laughing more often. Little things, Travis said, the unexpected jokes, the shy comments, the awkward but cute attempts to start conversations, made her smile without effort. She enjoyed watching him work, seeing his strong hands handle animals with surprising gentleness, and Travis noticed changes in her too. He saw how she became more comfortable around the ranch, how she walked with a steady step, how her eyes sparkled when she talked about something she loved. He admired her strength, her patience, her softness. Without realizing it, he found himself thinking of her in moments when she wasn't around. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Travis invited her to sit outside under the wide, open sky. The stars were beginning to appear like tiny lanterns. Do you like it here now? He asked quietly. Amina thought for a moment. I still miss my old home, but this place feels warm now. It feels safe. Travis nodded slowly. I'm glad. I wanted that. Amina looked at him with gentle eyes. You've made it easy to feel safe. He looked down, shy but touched. I'm not always good with words, but I try. You do more than try, she said softly. Their eyes met. For a long moment, neither looked away. Amina felt something shift inside her, something she could no longer hide from herself. She cared for him, slowly, quietly, but deeply. A few days later, a small celebration was held in the town for the harvest season. Families gathered, children ran around happily, and music played softly through the open field. Travis's family insisted Amina join, saying it would help her connect with the community. Amina felt nervous, but with Travis by her side, the fear lessened. At the event, many people came to greet her kindly. She felt welcomed, accepted. Travis stayed close, introducing her to friends and neighbors. Every time she felt overwhelmed, he leaned slightly toward her and whispered, "You're doing great." His reassurance filled her with quiet confidence. Later, as music filled the field, couples began to sway gently. Amina watched them, unsure if she should join. She wasn't used to such gatherings. Travis stood beside her. He glanced at the dancing couples, then at her. His voice was soft. Would you like to dance? Amina's heart skipped. I don't know how, she whispered. That's okay, he said. I can guide you. He offered his hand, hesitant but hopeful. Amina looked at his hand for a moment, strong, gentle, caring, then slowly placed hers in his. He guided her to the open space. His hand rested respectfully on her upper arm, and her other hand rested lightly in his. The music was slow and calming. He moved gently, allowing her to follow without pressure. Amina looked up at him. His quiet eyes held a warmth she had never seen before. Under the soft glow of the nightlights, surrounded by laughter and music, she felt something deep and peaceful bloom in her heart. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't unsure. She felt understood. When the music ended, they stood together for a moment, still holding hands. Neither wanted to let go too quickly. Travis spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. Amina, I'm grateful you're here, she replied softly. I'm grateful too. More than I ever expected. That night, as they walked home, Amina realized something important. She no longer saw Travis as the stranger she was forced to marry. She no longer felt trapped in a future she didn't choose. Instead, she felt that life had given her a gentle surprise, a kind man with a quiet heart, a peaceful home, and a new beginning she never expected. She looked at Travis walking beside her, his steps steady and calm. In her heart, she whispered a truth she could finally accept. She had discovered kindness behind his quiet eyes, a kindness she now saw as her own comfort, her own strength, and her own happiness. And for the first time, she felt that this life, this home, this land, this quiet cowboy, might truly be the place where her heart belonged.